I would like to talk tonight about personal versus national identity, and I'd like to start with a quote from one of my writing mentors, Julie Littlevich. "I am not the story you made of me." She says we should all carry this quote tattooed on our forehead, so that every time someone who's quick to label us, put us in a box, and leave us there, sees it. Hi, I'm Diana, I'm a writer, and I come from Romania. Of course, like any other person in the room tonight, I'm a lot more than these labels. But I start with them as a lead, because it's taken me a long time, roughly 20 years, to be able to say I'm from Romania without this being attached to a prejudice and without this being an emotional trigger for me. And it took me just as long to write my origin and becoming story, which has become the book Our Voices. I'm giving free copies away tonight. Please, I don't want to take them home with me. So I'd like to ask you, have you ever been to Romania? Great. What do you know about Romania other than Dracula, corruption, school thieves, prostitutes?
Nice colleagues from Romania. Yeah. Old forests.
Okay. You know the German expression "Irgendwohin in Karpaten"? I think we should get rid of it. Who in the room here tonight is from Romania? Oh, great. So I have to apologize because my story of what it means to be from Romania is probably going to be slightly different from yours, but perhaps we can talk about it in the break. And yeah, there's also something funny about being from Romania. There are Romanians living in Germany who say, oh, I am not like these Romanians that you read about in the newspapers. I'm educated, I have a PhD, you know. I think there's a problem there as well, because you're basically assessing human value based on education and economic power. And then, since 2015, I have also been a German citizen, but often if I'm in a room, even in an international space like here tonight, my born German friends would say, oh, we are a very mixed crowd, Jana's not German. So I think there's a problem there as well. And then there's a general problem. When we say Europe, what do we normally think about? What countries do we associate with Europe?
Germany, France, isn't it? France?
Exactly. Maybe Croatia, because if you live in Germany, that's where we go on holiday. But it's kind of already tricky. Basically, everything that's after Austria is a bit of a dark sphere. It's maybe the Balkans. Nobody really knows what those little countries are. They speak some Slavic languages. By the way, Romanian is not a Slavic language. And the Dracula castle, he didn't really live there. So if you're going to Romania, find another place to visit. So sorry to take away all the stereotypes about Romania. What I'm going to tell you about my Romania is not going to be much better. So I was born in 1982, which means I still got to experience Romania in communism and after communism. In December 1989, I was a little pioneer. I was 7 years old. I was in charge of all the pioneers in my classroom. And every morning we would sing patriotic songs dedicated to our back then dictator. We didn't know he was a dictator. We thought he was our beloved father. And it was the most violent communist revolution, anti-communist revolution of 1989. We basically killed our dictator on Christmas Day on national television. So that was the first big rupture in my reference system about what Romania really means. In geography class, we were taught that it's the richest country in the world, full of natural resources, which turned out to be a lie. I had another big rupture in my becoming. When I was 12, my mother was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. At the time she was 47 years old. And it made no sense at the time. But that's because I didn't know another layer in my origin story. At the rise of communism, in the late 50s, my grandfather, my mother's father, at the time she was 12, he was arrested as a political prisoner for being an intellectual and being aware and discussing international politics. I know, it sounds absurd. As a result, he was arrested, he was imprisoned, and then he was in a labor camp, very similar to the Nazi labor camps we know in Germany. The purpose of those camps was to exterminate the people who lived there. As a result, he died. I never got to meet him. I know he was a poet. And my mother's side of the family was very traumatized by this experience. They were socially isolated, they struggled financially. And after this happened, another 40 years of communism came. And even nowadays, in Romania, the topics PTSD, trauma, the trauma of communism and intergenerational trauma are not necessarily topics that are discussed in public. This led to my book, where I'm braiding my story with my mother's story and my grandfather's story. But it's not just drama in this book, it's also a story of becoming, of carrying the heaviness of these origins in me, but also of doing something with them. And of course, Romania also means other things. It's not just the evil stuff, but I'm telling you these things because I think we are seeing a rise in different extremist movements, and the movement that we are seeing is by no means original. All these things have happened before, no matter where we are from. And my generation perhaps still know these stories. The generations after me, both in Romania and outside it, may not. And I believe that the personal is political, and we need to get to the bottom of these very personal stories to create change. And I also believe that we are not only defined by our origin and the individuation process of formation of our personality is lifelong, and we are always becoming. I would like to end with a poem that I wrote at the time when Trump was elected president. It was performed at that time in Eine Welthaus in the big room downstairs in 2016 with the first Munich Feminist Project performance. And it's called If You Want to Know Me, Don't Ask Me Where I'm From. And I think this relates very well to the anti-AfD protest we had in Munich finally today. If you want to know me, don't ask me where I come from. Don't ask me whether my home country is nothing but black all over my body. Don't ask me questions about my body, about the endless scars. Don't ask me about the nights under a violet fog, where you were facing the stars looking for complementary orange, and I the cold ground, unable to face the half-alive, half-dead bodies, dangling like hammocks underneath a sky where nobody wanted to die. Your home now carries the colors red, white, and blue, but mine is covered in dust particles and names of people I can no longer meet or trust. Underneath all that, it is still a pure, wild shade of green. The color of hope should not be split into two. Ask me about my childhood dreams and I'll ship them to you. Ask me how many of them came true. Please don't give me labels or call me names. Don't split me from you. And if you'd ask me all that, I'd tell you that only one came true. And that is more than some people have in 100 trips around the moon, sun and stars. The sun was yellow than indigo. We could not tell pirates from mermaids, riding the waves, spaces pressed into one another. Even at the shore, the waves kept moving, slower, faster. If you want to know me, sit with me inside this human temple I built for you, out of the scar tissue of all our ancestors. That's from generation to generation into all of me and all of you. Sit with me and tell me stories in rediscovered or invented languages. until your tears find shelter inside my chest and my right ventricle finds a land of kisses around your temples, until our hearts become rainbows that melt into one another as only homes can do. Thank you.